Welcome back to the AWA 1990 project. I'm your host, Alex G, and with me, as always, Matt Riley. What's going on, Matt?
Let me tell you something, Mean Gene.
Yes, I think we all have a admiration for Gene Okerlund. I actually met him like right before he died, like a year before he passed away. Super cool dude.
He's dead?
Yeah, he died.
Oh man, I just sent Mean Gene $200. Uh-oh.
It was funny. It was like he told me he whispered, he grabbed me by the arm and whispered in my ear. It was like, when this is all over, you want to head to the bar to get a drink? Damn tootin' I do. But I didn't get a chance to. But that's Mean Gene for you. Always hilarious. It's just, when it comes to Mean Gene Okerlund, I think they broke the mold. And we don't have these old-timey announcers and backstage interviewers anymore. He didn't take any shit, too, which is what I love about Mean Gene. See a lot of backstage interviewers, like they get insulted by the wrestlers or physically intimidated by the wrestlers, but not Mean Gene. He didn't get right in someone's face. He didn't give a fuck. And that's why we love him.
I think the thing about Mean Gene was always great was that he helped accentuate the characters. He didn't overwhelm them. But he wasn't like just a passing, like when you see it nowadays, and it could be anybody back there. It doesn't matter because they're just essentially holding a mic. They don't do anything else besides do that.
They're essentially just a microphone stand, and depending if it's male or female, they're good looking. And that's about it. They're just so generic. Yeah. Just like most things when it comes to the WWE. But we're not talking about the WWE. We're talking about the good old AWA, the American Wrestling Association. And I want to kind of circle back to the beginning and kind of explain to everyone at home what the AWA 1990 project is. Now, for those of you who watched the NWA 1983 project, NWA 1984 project, you guys have an overall understanding of what we're doing. This is a fantasy booking scenario. And just to take it back, when I was like around 8 years old, I started doing fantasy booking. So it was 1990, which is ironic. And I would have a marble notebook, the composition notebooks. And I would write out cards and winners and go through the whole thing. And I did that for like fucking years, right? Till eventually I got to a point where these video games started coming out and I started doing fantasy booking within the video game world. And I would still have to write them down because there was no way to really save the action and there wasn't a lot of games at the time that were doing like promoter modes or like full match cards, and eventually they got there. In between that, I started playing a game that some of you may have heard of. It's called Extreme Warfare Revenge, which is a booking simulator, and it's fantastic. If you can find it out there on the internet, download it. It's they have updates for it. You can get a modern roster if you want to, but I wasn't interested in modern rosters. I would do things like, I'm rebooting ECW in 2002 before that people actually started, like before the WWE actually started doing it. Like, what if ECW never died? Oh, what if the NWA comes back? And this is like early 2000s. This is like 2002, 2003, 2004. I was doing that. Eventually, the WWE games gave you the ability to create your own universe, and I did that for a while. And the 1983 and 1984 projects are all based on, I believe it was 2K16 and 2K18. Where the game is chosen to kind of deliver the action to all of you on screen. I intended for this particular show to be WWE 2K20, but that game was so fucking bad that I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use Fire Pro instead. It may not have all the bells and whistles that the WWE games have, but I think it's good enough for what we're doing. You're able to download, the packs of wrestlers that are necessary, and some pretty obscure ones that I could never find, because I'm not necessarily all that great in creating my own creator wrestlers. I would have to download them and then edit them from there to kind of give them the feel of what they looked like in that particular time frame. So again, I try to be as accurate as possible. Sometimes that can be difficult. We try our best. Again, this is not a word for word interpretation. It's to give everyone, the viewer at home, a feel of what we're doing.
Right.
So this is the AWA 1990 project, and we're going to talk about not only the AWA and their rise and their fall. We're going to talk about pro wrestling in general from like 1989 to 1991, that time frame of the early 90s, where I started watching wrestling in 1987. I'm all in by 89. I'm off to the races there. So again, this is my time frame is the time frame that I'm most nostalgic for. I wish I came around a little bit earlier because I wanted to see more of the territories, but thank God for YouTube and the ability to grab all this footage that I need from tape traders or what have you. That I have most of this footage anyway. So I went back and watched it all, and And for me personally, is like, yeah, I'm really nostalgic for 89, 90, 91 would be WWF or WCW, and some USWA, which I was able to say. But I can hands down, based on no nostalgia for the product, that I really do enjoy Memphis. Like, that shit is fucking off the hook. I really do enjoy UWF Mid-South. I really love that kind of stuff, and even some of the other Crockett stuff. And Florida. Like, I'm really, like, I can tell you that stuff is good. It's really, really good. And for someone who didn't watch it at the time, looking back on it, like, I can go back and say, like, that was fucking awesome. So this is the AWA 1990 project, and I'm going to start off, I guess the way we'll start off all these shows is talk about the roster and some of the guys that we are bringing in, and we went over a lot of the guys on the past episode, but one guy we forgot to mention in the last episode that we are bringing in is Tully Blanchard. Now, Tully Blanchard is a real interesting scenario here. Now, a lot of you already know this, but for those of you who don't, you know, when Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson leave the WWF in 1989, the latter part of 89, like November, he was supposed to debut in WCW and reform the Horsemen. Unfortunately for Tully, he failed the drug test in WWF. That information leaked out to WCW, and WCW refused to sign him. And they went back and forth for a couple of years. Every once in a while, they go back to Tully, try to get him re-signed, and Tully being Tully, or Tully asking for this amount of money, and Tully being notoriously hard to deal with, and he was also on substances at the time, and that's well documented. Tully maybe not attractive to the recently purchased or corporately owned WCW at the time.
Yeah.
Now Tully did make shots for the AWA in 1990, so he's gonna be with us.
Nice.
But unlike a lot of the other wrestlers that we're bringing in, there's not a known trajectory for Tully because he didn't wrestle a whole lot and essentially retired. Never got a big push or a big spot after leaving WWF. So we don't know what the future holds for Tully. So we have to be real careful with Tully because I don't know how he's going to be. Can I really put him in main events with Ricky Steamboat? I'm not sure. That's been done already in '84 at Crockett. So it's like, nah. So this is what we're going to do with Tully. Now, Tully's going to come in and he's going to feud with Hector Guerrero. People are like, what? Hector Guerrero? Tully's father ran Southwest. There's something there. I feel there's something there about Tully Blanchard not necessarily liking quote-unquote luchadors all that much. So he's going to feud with Hector Guerrero, and Hector's going to bring in his little brother. Eddie Guerrero is going to be there. So you would have Tully Blanchard taking on the Guerreros. And I think they will do some fun stuff. Now, if Tully's able to perform, he'll get moved up the card. If he doesn't, we'll keep him right where he's at. I think him and Hector and Eddie can have great matches, and maybe we can reestablish Tully as a star. Not that the WWF heard him, but it's essentially, since 1987, he's been a mid-card tag team wrestler, and I can't justify putting him in a top spot, at least right away. Now, if Tully comes out and maybe he cleans up his act and has a better attitude, then we can see him go up the card. But for right now, he's going to be feuding with the Guerreros, and maybe he brings in, and he's actually going to bring in some help. So he's going to bring in Blue Demon Jr. And we're going to have some Lucha Libre on the AWA. See how these Midwestern folks deal with Lucha Libre, and I think Tully's the perfect guy for that because he can work that style if necessary because he's done it in the past. We've seen him do it.
Right.
So we're going to have the Guerreros, and the Guerreros are going to bring in another friend in from Mexico. He's going to bring in El Dandy. And a lot of people are saying to me right now, El Dandy. And I'll say this to you. Who are you to knock El Dandy? He's a jam-up guy and a hell of a worker and a big star in Mexico. I know he's the butt of the joke, especially with that Bret Hart interview that he did on him at one time. But El Dandy can go. So we're going to have the Guerreros with El Dandy, and we have Tully and his faction of quote-unquote evil luchadors coming in. And we're going to have some fun there. I think that can get everyone over. And then, of course, we're going to keep our eyes on Eddie because he's going to be important moving forward. He's going to be real important moving forward. That's where I see them. I see them feuding for a while, and then we'll see how it goes from there. Looking to elevate the Guerreros and maybe to a prominent tag team position, possibly feuding with the Destruction Crew, and the Road Warriors as well. The Road Warriors will be here. And the way I see the Road Warriors kind of working out is that they're not going to be babyface or heel. They're going to be the champs and taking on anybody.
Sure.
So they're going to be tweeners essentially. So you can, if I want to throw whatever babyface tag teams I can, if I can throw some heel tag teams up to the card as well, depending on what we need from them is basically what they're going to give us. So if I need them to be heel, they're going to work heel. If I need them to be babyface, they're going to be babyfaces. So we have the Guerreros, El Dandy, Tully Blanchard, and Blue Demon Jr. Again, we're going to try to work out our deals with Mexico. And the reason I like to use a lot of international talent because you can cycle them in and out. I know they have to go back. You know what I mean? I know they have to go on tour. But it's a good way to bring these guys in, and we have a reason for them to go and then come back. So I don't have to use them on every show. And they don't maybe have to be in every house show. But we can use them quite a bit. And establish our relationships with New Japan, because we're bringing New Japan guys in with Mexico in general, which would be EMML. I think UWA at the time. The AAA is not a thing yet. So, we're looking to bring in luchadors because, again, they bring a different aesthetic and a different feel to the show, something that perhaps the Midwestern fans have not seen before. So we're going to bring them up to Minnesota and see what's up. Next up, we're going to bring in, and I think Matt will really enjoy this. We're going to bring in Gentleman Chris Adams. Now,
yeah.
We all love Chris Adams. He brings, again, another different style. He is that British World of Sports style.
Are we going to get the all-new dynamic duo, Tully and Adams?
There could be a relationship there. Absolutely. 100%. I believe we're going to keep him babyface, at least to start, because he's going to be feuding with two guys that may not get the recognition that they deserve, but he's going to be feuding with Eric Embry. Eric Embry is an interesting case because Embry, you look at him, you're like, what the fuck? But he gets over no matter where. It doesn't matter if he's booking or not. He gets over for some odd reason. And he's such a dirtbag heel. And,
yeah.
And I don't think the AWAs have necessarily had that kind of southern dirtbag fucking heel. Like, you're just really shitty. Yep. Along with him is gorgeous Gary Young. Again, another fantastic guy. That these guys never got their shots at the big time. They didn't. Embry didn't get a shot. Gary Young didn't get a shot. So putting them with Chris Adams is familiar. We're taking a lot of those elements from the USWA, bringing them up. But Chris is going to bring his protege, his student, with him. That's right. It's going to be Steve Austin. Steve Austin, again, 19, I believe is 1990 Rookie of the Year. So we're going to get Steve Austin right off the bat. He's going to be teaming with Chris. I think everyone knows what's going to happen here. We're basically going to just rip off the USWA. And eventually Austin's going to turn on Chris Adams, and they're going to have their big feud, and that's going to be fucking fantastic, especially with the women. Would be Jeannie. So we're going to bring in Jeannie Clark, we're going to bring in Tony Adams, and we're going to do that whole feud. That's going to play out on AWA television. Again, we have Steve Austin who turns heel, joins up with Embry and Gary Young, and then we have Chris Adams who's all by himself. He's going to need some backup. And who are we going to bring in for backup for Chris Adams? Now, there's one guy, but he's going to get saved for later. He's going to be in our pocket because this is going to get big. But right off the bat, we're going to bring in Chris Adams' good friend, Norman Smiley. That's right. Screaming Norman Smiley. Again, with that British style, it's funny. You have the Southern style with Embry and Young and Steve Austin to a degree, and then you have this European kind of style with Adams and Smiley. That could be a really interesting dynamic, and they're going to feud all over the place, and they're going to bleed buckets, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, when you look at the roster here, you see what I'm setting up here for. We have Cactus Jack. We have Owen Hart. Now we have Steve Austin. 5 years, this is going to be our main events. And these are going to be main event guys. We all know. So, but we're going to get them early. And I think that's fair. I think... And there'll be a lot of guys saying, oh, yeah, could you really predict the stardom for Steve Austin? I did. Steve Austin was my favorite wrestler. I saw Steve Austin have this match with Chris Adams where Steve Austin's wearing his football uniform and his helmet, and it was completely ridiculous. By the time Steve Austin gets to WCW, he's my favorite wrestler. I like studying Steve Austin better than I like Stone Cold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, Matt, what are your thoughts on Chris Adams and Eric Embry, Gary Young, and Steve Austin, and Norman Smiley?
Well, Austin's pretty obvious. I was also a fan. The Hollywood Blondes, when they were doing that gimmick, was a lot of fun to watch. Amazing. I was a Chris Adams fan way back to the days with Von Erichs and that whole thing. And then I remember thinking that when that whole thing went down, where Gino died, and then they had the blind gimmick, or vice versa.
Oh yeah, that was poor. That was poor taste.
The thing what came to mind really was when that later on that actually came to mind when Chris Benoit died or did the murder suicide, and they had blown up Vince's and his limo.
Yeah.
And then it was like full stop, like, yeah, we're not doing that. Although, you wouldn't see that come out of WCW back then. But I've always been a Chris Adams fan. I like his intensity, his selling. He was a great bad guy, and he was a good guy. But even the feud with Terry Taylor in the EWF was awesome.
Amazing.
That was
amazing feud. And Chris never got his shot. Like WWF. I mean, he did a couple appearances for WCW, but he never really got his shot to shine on the biggest stages. And we're going to give Chris that opportunity 100%. And I think there's a lot and with the special, I don't know if you guys can guess, but it's 2-on-3 right now with Austin, Embry, and Young. Any guesses on who I'm going to bring in to team up with Smiley and Chris Adams, who will be available third quarter of 1990? So I want you guys to maybe put it in the comment section. Who will Chris Adams bring in to fight this treacherous trio?
Well, I will say this too. What's funny is Norman Lunatic, I knew him from his Stampede days. So when he did that, I was like, no, he's a great monster heel. Like, what are you doing? Like, no.
Norman Lunatic got over. You know what I mean? That's the bottom line. Like, Norman got over, and I didn't like him as Bastion Booger, though. That was fucking awful. Or Friar Ferguson in WWF, like, that was fucking shit. But, Mike Shaw gets over wherever he goes. And I think with his pairing with Cactus Jack, gives him some credibility. They're going to be feuding with Scott Norton. And that's going to be a lot of fun. And Scott Norton's going to bring in again. We have to debut a lot of people very quickly, so you're going to see you're going to see the same thing kind of play out over and over again. Where kind of the heels get over on the baby faces have to bring someone in. So for a couple of months, everyone's going to be guessing, who's going to be coming in next? And that would give us a lot of excitement right off the bat. But then we have to properly put them, within the promotion and make sure they fit. And the more I watch Scott Norton, the more I'm like, this guy should be a main eventer, 100%. And then another guy that we are going to bring in, a guy that didn't get his, didn't get the opportunities. Again, it's going to be the same thing. Like, these are going to be guys that never got shots because, we're not going to bring in your Hulk Hogan's and your Randy Savage and your Ric Flair, at least Flair initially. Now, I would be eyeing him down sometime in 1991 to possibly bring in Flair, but I'm looking at a guy like Larry Cameron. Larry Cameron, big, jacked up dude, okay promo. He's a project. We have to work with Larry a little bit. Working in Stampede, having matches with Owen. He's a good guy to get and see if we can do something with him. So Lethal Larry Cameron comes in, and I think I'm going to put him in a program with JT Southern. Oh my God, JT Southern. JT Southern had made appearances in the AWA. He's already known. So we have JT Southern come in. He can really play the guitar, unlike Van Hammer. He's a good look about him. Again, he's very much 80s hair metal type looking dude. And again, he's like the project a little bit of a project. But you can do something. I think the dynamic between him and Larry Cameron would be something interesting. So that's what we're going to have there. And I think that's going to be lots of fun. And again, JT's another guy that may not have gotten his opportunity. He had some shots at WCW. Again, I made the reference to Van Hammer, and even his relationship with Scotty Flamingo. He did some things in WCW, but not necessarily. It's funny because Jesse Ventura is like, what does JT stand for? Just terrible. But he's a project. He's a project. Have some project guys on here. He's a good look, decent on a promo. We can have some fun there. A Monster Factory guy. So I think that's going to be pretty neat. Again, you have to slot guys in. Not everyone can be main event stars. You don't have to build your promotion. You have your main eventers, you have your upper mid card, your middle mid card, your lower mid card, and then you're gonna have your job guys. So speaking of job guys, one of my favorite jobbers of all time. We're going to bring him in. He's going to try to get guys to look good. This will be good old Dwayne Gilberg will be coming in, and he's going to be one of those guys that, he's going to put people over, and he's going to try to make them look good. So we have good old Dwayne Gill coming in for us, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And another guy that we're going to bring in, and this is pretty early in his career still, but I think in 1990, he's really, really good. 90, 91, 92, this guy is really, really kind of cooking with gas here. He's made some appearances from the AWA in the past, so people will be aware of him. That's right. We're bringing in Jeff Jarrett, Double J, from the USWA. We'll try to get him away from his dad. And he's going to be, the way I have him slotted, he's upper mid-card already, right off the bat. So you have Jarrett coming in, and he's going to be right under, we have Steamboat, we have Muto, and third on the pecking order will be Jeff Jarrett as a babyface.
Okay.
He's a guy that shows a lot of fire. I think when he went to the WWF, it kind of messed up him a little bit because he tried to work that WWF style, but he wasn't necessarily all that good at working that WWF style. He needed to be working that method style. So we're going to let him do his thing. Great wrestling mind, comes from a wrestling family. He's someone that can be with us for the long haul, as long as he doesn't hold us up for money.
Sure.
But he's someone that, and he can help me forge that relationship with the USWA that I'm going to need. Because I want to have the ability to send guys down there as sort of a proto-developmental sort of. But Jarrett is a star. I know a lot of people give Jarrett shit, especially when he books himself. Some of that TNA stuff was a little bit rough. But overall, Jarrett is a star. His first WWF run wasn't that great. His first WCW run wasn't that great, where he was trying to be the Horseman. But eventually he got it. So again, great wrestling mind, understands the business. He's going to be a tool that we're going to use. We'll keep him strong. He's going to be upper mid-card babyface right underneath the world champion. So he's going to be someone who's going to, you can put him with anybody, and he has the ability to make them look good. So you can put him in, it's so different. There's so many different scenarios there that we can use. And I think Jarrett is one of the perfect guys. And again, he's young. He's not super expensive yet. He will be, but not yet. Right. And he's someone that he can talk, he can work. And I think I need guys to be able to cut promos. I'm going to need guys who to be able to cut promos because I'm going to transition quickly.
Well, I think it's a good move. And again, I think one of the things, you mentioned project wrestlers. It's that you have to have guys that come in that have room to grow. Because I think one of the important things about a wrestling promotion is to see stars that grow, the fans can kind of grow with them. I think of CM Punk and then WWE, he went through different stages and it was great, to kind of progress.
Bret Hart was the same way. Shawn Michaels was the same way.
Yeah, and I think what's funny is a lot of those guys now, it feels like, and this is kind of my a little bit of a stretch, but in the NBA, right? In the NBA, if a guy isn't a star by year 3, I feel like they just give up on the guy being a star ever. There are guys that take 5 or 6 years to kind of get to where they're a dependable star, and I think wrestling-wise, some of those guys have that feeling. Well, I think for fans, you want to see them grow. And I think that's why I always like the idea of tag teams coming in, then they can split up and do their own thing, or vice versa. Take 2 guys who are kind of stale, slap them together, and then they can kind of rejuvenate each other.
You have to have guys that can move up the ranks because, again, the fans will usually identify these people early, and they will go on the journey with them, and that's super important.
Right.
But again, I want to have guys that can talk. The promos is going to be very important to what we're doing because don't forget, guys, that we have this ESPN show that's 5 days a week, and I've been racking my brain for the last 2 weeks of how the fuck can you book a wrestling show 5 days a week with your syndication shows? How do you even do that? You have an hour every day, 4 o'clock.
Yep.
How do you book this? Now, I believe the way the AWA did, if I'm not mistaken here, is that they would have these long TV tapings, and they would just chop it up into, maybe 5 hours long, and they would chop it up. And that's a pain in the ass to do. Me personally, I don't think I would even do the 5 days. ESPN, give me a break here. Can we just do Saturdays or something? Or give me Tuesdays where there's bowling on or something. Don't make me do this 5 days. But we do have a contract. and we do have this show on ESPN that's going to be 5 days a week. Now, our syndication show is going to be our A show. That's the show that goes out nationwide. We're going to try to work with ESPN to give us at least a monthly special.
Yeah.
Like a Saturday night's main event type deal, monthly. So what do you do with these 5 days? And the only way I can figure it out is if I do this. It's going to be fucking primetime wrestling. It's going to be Jesse and Shivani putting over the angles and the wrestlers, lots of promos, lots of quote-unquote vignettes or wrestler profiles, really talking up, hey, look, it's fucking Norman the Lunatic. Here's 3 Norman the Lunatic matches, and he's going to have this fucking 5-minute deal where someone's interviewing him, or you go over his past, or something, and whatever angles are going on. You do that over 5 days with different guys. So, one day is Steamboat. The next day, it's going to be Eddie Guerrero. The next day is going to be Eric Embry. Another day is going to be Chris Adams. And the next day is going to be Bam Bigelow. And we do these profiles. Maybe we give them 2 matches, getting them over, maybe some job wins or some, good wins on TV. I figure we got to do an old-timer match. You got to do an old-timer match. You know what I mean? We have this library. Throw hey, this is 1982, blah, 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 right?
Sure.
You give them one of those, and then you give them a couple of squashes, but you really got – this is going to be a recap show, essentially. You got to recap all these angles. And one of the things that WWF did that was during this time frame that was really good is that the show moved very slow. So the promotion and the shows moved very slow. So they would do an angle where Earthquake puts out Hogan, and they would repeat that on every fucking show for weeks.
Yeah.
And you would get reaction on it, but it worked because I can't tell you what happened 3 months ago on Raw. But I sure as fuck remember that Earthquake angle. Because even if you miss it live, they recapped it so many fucking times on Challenge, on All-American, on Prime Time. It didn't matter. You got those angles over.
Right.
Even Ice Train. So we're going to do that. We're going to get these angles over, and we're going to talk to them ad nauseum. And then, we have our syndication show. The 5 shows after that during the week is going to recap that show. Do your wrestler profiles, have your old-timer match. Then we get to the next syndication show next week, do the same thing, recap what happened on that show, and really kind of, hammer those fucking angles home. Again, this is before your Monday Night Raws and your Nitros, and you can kind of get away with it. Eventually, if we want to get to 1995, we're going to have to change the format. But for right now, we're going to have Shivani and Ventura. They're going to fucking talk.
Well, I think one thing, too, you can keep in mind, I think this is, oddly enough, something now like AEW could do, or even WWE could do, is instead of just running old, like they've run like the Royal Rumble, they've run some like Elimination Chamber matches, run a classic match and have the commentators be the guys who are in it.
Agreed.
Like you ever see that Michaels Ramon video, they talk about their ladder match. Have Edge.
They did one with Slaughter and Hogan. That's something they used to. They used to do that? They used to do that in Florida. So you would have Terry Funk and like Jack Briscoe or Dusty Rhodes and fucking like Kevin Sullivan talking over their match. And this was in the early 80s, guys. So this is not something that's unprecedented. This is something that happened.
Right, and not only that, remember the feud between the Midnight Express and the Fantastics. Cornette came out and he would color commentate kind of like over what happened. Like they'd be like, "There you are. Nope, that's not me. No, I didn't do that." But it's just, I always feel that what they're doing is they have all this library material. So same with AWA. You have this library material. Take advantage of it. Again, you could show something like, here's the classic of the week, and maybe on like Wednesday you have an old throwback to like whatever. I do think it's time to reveal the super secret signing for the AWA 1990 project.
Who's that?
Vern Gagne.
No, Vern is not going to be on TV.
Let's get that man's main event material right there.
Both Vern and Greg, not only Vern and Greg, Vern, Greg, Vachon, Bockwinkel, all those guys from that era, you're not going to see anything about them.
I love it.
Greg and Vern are going to run the wrestling school. I may bring them back, but not at least for a year. And I might tap Bockwinkel as an authority figure. I don't know. Because fuck Stanley Blackburn and fuck Lord James Blears.
Oh man, Stanley Blackburn.
Fuck those guys. So we're going to move forward. We're not going to go in the past. And a lot of the promotions that were around during this time frame, would it be UWF, Herb Abrams UWF, or would it be Tri-State Wrestling? A lot of these promotions that came out during the time, even Smoky Mountain, they were trying to go backwards. Oh, wrestling like you used to like it.
Right.
You could do that style, but never mention the past. We're going into the future. This is going to be the wrestling of the 90s. Does the wrestling of the 90s look like 1982? Yes, but we're not going to tell them that.
Right.
You know, we will do old school angles the old school way, but we're never going to mention that. We're never going to mention that. Because everything's about moving forward. The past is dead. Leave it buried. We'll bring some shit back, though. But we're not going to tell them that. We're not going to fucking hit them in the head with that. I always thought that was a bad move for the independents in the late 80s, early 90s. Like, we're gonna have wrestlers, we're going to bring back Don Morocco. We're going to bring back, this guy and this guy. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You can sprinkle those guys in, but you can't have promotion based on you guys. You got to have your new stars because in 5 years, those guys are going to be gone, regardless. Yep. So, that's that. So, Matt, I made you watch a AWA show this week. The show that was chosen, and I guess it might be their first big show that we see on tape. If there's any other ones, please let me know because I will watch those. But I guess the first show that we saw on tape that's quote-unquote a big show or pay-per-view style show, large-scale events, it was closed-circuited, was AWA Super Sunday. Super. Reminds me of the old fucking Monster Trucks commercials. Sunday.
Right.
So Super Sunday, AWA Super Sunday, will take place April 24th, 1983, St. Paul, Minnesota, at the St. Paul Civic Center. I believe the attendance was 10,000 folks packed into the Civic Center, which is a good house. And it felt, when watching the show, my overall impression is it feels like a big show. It does. It feels like a major league show. It's something that if you watch the later AWA stuff, it doesn't feel like major league.
Well, if you got Buck Rock and Roll Zumhoff on there, you're talking a top tier show.
Zumhoff is over though, although he's a piece of shit of a person, but he's over. So right off the bat, it feels like a big show. It feels like it's a big deal. Production looks good, looks clean. Doesn't look as. It's funny because something from '83 doesn't look as dated as something from '89. Like the production got worse over time.
Right.
And it is nowhere near WWF. And for our fictitious promotion, I want her for a production value that had the same production values, if not better than Saturday's Main Event. That's what I'm looking for. So whatever that is, it is. That's what I wanted. But the matches, and we're not going to go super in-depth on all the matches, but there's some interesting stuff going on here. Right off the bat, we have Brad Rheingans taking on Rocky Stone. Now, Brad Rheingans does get the win here. Brad Rheingans is an interesting guy. You think he's someone that was a flop? He was supposed to be a big deal. He won 2 gold medals, Pan American Games. He's
Kurt Angle without the charisma.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, he had he trained Brock Lesnar originally. So he's someone that he's a good trainer. But he's someone that there was always something missing about Brad Rheingans. And, he's not necessarily, he's 5'10", 250, had a 15-year career. But I always thought there was something missing that you can never, in reality, he should have been someone that Vern would have saw as potentially the next AWA World Champion.
Right.
He just never developed that way. Unfortunately for him and for Vern, because I think if this guy had the charisma and could cut the promos with his wrestling skill, being homegrown from Minnesota, being a Vern guy, and guy with legitimate credentials, you would think he's a home run. He's going to be our next world champion.
Right.
But it's never developed that way. And that's kind of sad, to be honest, because I think, if he had it with those credentials, big fucking deal. And a guy that could carry the promotion throughout the 80s. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way for Brad or the AWA.
Right.
Next up, we had Buck Zumhoff. Rock and roll Buck Zumhoff, and Steve, not that Steve Regal, Mr. Electricity Steve Regal.
Oh, boy.
Buck Zumhoff was over. He's a piece of shit of a person. I think he's currently in prison.
Sounds right.
Yeah, 25 years in prison currently. Steve Regal, great worker in the ring. him and Garvin beat the Road Warriors.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But, he's someone that I think he got as far as he was going to go. You know what I mean? Based on his look, charisma, his skill, he got to where he was going to go. Mid-card, can go upper mid-card if he had to, but that's basically where he was going to go. But, even his run in the WWF in 86 wasn't that great. You know what I mean? Like, they couldn't really figure out what to do with him. I think that's one of the issues that he couldn't figure out what to do with Mr. Electricity. Steve Regal, but nice guy. But I think he made it to where he was supposed to. Next up, we had Jerry the King Lawler making an AWA appearance on this big show. Again, Memphis is affiliated with the AWA, as we all know by this time. And he defeated John Tolos, the Golden Greek.
It was nice that he broke his neck, too. That was nice. He's a pile driver, and he killed John Tolos. Okay, well,
Tolos deserved it.
Yeah.
How old was John Tolos?
He was the coach, right?
He was the coach in WWF, yes. He was like 50 years old.
Hey, can you check him? He needs money like everybody else. Come on now.
Do you really need a 50-year-old John Tolos here in 1983? You have Lawler, who could be potentially a huge star for you. I know he's big star in Memphis, but they should have looked at Lawler earlier as maybe the guy moving forward. By the time he got the belt, mean dick. So it's like, Lawler should probably, if it wasn't going to go to Hogan, it probably should have went to Lawler sometime in '83. I think that's fair. But you have Lawler here, third on the card, and he's beating up a 50-year-old man. All right, next up is my favorite tag team, the Texas Cowgirls, Wendy Richter. I got to say this about Wendy Richter, not to sound like whatever the fuck, but she's good looking. She's good looking. Like, I would be enamored with Wendy Richter 1983.
A lot of people were.
I mean?
Yeah.
She made it very far to WWF. You can make an argument, guys, that she was the number 2 babyface in WWF in 1985. Unfortunately, women wrestling had not evolved all that much, but she's solid in the ring, good-looking woman, decent promo. She held her titles. You know what I mean? She won the NWA Tag Team titles here, former WWF Women's Champion, the whole nine. She's an interesting footnote and someone that should probably be celebrated more because she was fucking WWF. She was fucking over with Lauper. So if you're gonna build a women's division in the mid '80s, Wendy Richter is probably the first person you should call right off the bat. And I'm a big fan of Judy Martin, who works like a road warrior, and Velvet McIntyre, who's awesome. Velvet never wore a boot.
That's probably horrible for her feet. It's probably horrible. I always thought about that, like barefoot wrestlers just like asking for trouble.
Judy Martin used to throw around power bombs like she worked a fucking indie show in 2007. She's fucking throwing power bombs out in like 1984, 1985. Like, she didn't give a fuck. Fucking Judy Martin. Fucking awesome.
Judy Martin.
Our next match, and I like to see what's Wahoo doing here? 83.
Wahoo needs a check, man. Gotta buy some soup.
I'm just saying, like, is he like? Why is he not in Crockett? Because he's in Crockett by Starrcade. Who he's supposed to be, I believe, a tag team with Hulk Hogan. But that's all. We talked about that on the NWA day. Wahoo McDaniel in the AWA, he would always make shots there. He would always go back there. Like, you would see Wahoo in AWA and Crockett and Georgia. And then he would make, back in the day when he used to do this stuff, it was like, I'm in for fucking 6 weeks and I'm off. I'm gone. I'll come back. I'll get a big pop, big reaction. I'm gone another 6 weeks. They used to rotate talent a little bit more. And Wahoo, legitimately one of the toughest guys on the fucking planet.
Yeah.
Legitimate.
I thought of when I was watching that, like, because you're looking at Ed Boulder. It looked like one of those movies or the story you hear about the guy at the gym who starts with this old timer who's in there. And a quick side note, when I was a kid, I used to go to this arcade called Fun Time. And my friend had like $20 from his parents. I had like 10. So I would hang out with the dude who gave up quarters. And he was this old dude named Dick. And what we didn't know about Dick was Dick looked like kind of like Wahoo McDaniel. He had the big like drunk nose thing going on. Yeah. And he had been in prison for killing somebody. And he told me all of his life of crime. He was old. He was like in his late 70s at the time. And he just told me he'd spin yarn. So I just listened there and listened to him talk. And he always reminded me of Wahoo McDaniel. So one time his kid's kicking the machine because he's mad. And he pops up like, hey, Now, he never, like, screamed. He goes, motherfucker, I will throw you over there, break you over that machine, and fuck you. And we were like, oh, my God. You know, and I was always like, okay. You know, but he was a dude you did not mess with. Wahoo McDaniel in this match is Dick, the coin guy. So let that be a lesson to you.
Poor Brutus Beefcake. Nice to see Brutus Beefcake here as Eddie Bolton, by the way. Looking jacked as all hell. Nice blonde hair, flowing. Looking good. But yeah, Wahoo's, I guess, attitude perhaps probably cost him probably an NWA World Title run. Definitely got him blackballed from the WWF.
Yeah.
You know, Wahoo being Wahoo, man. You know, Wahoo being Wahoo. And, you know, there's legendary stories. You know, you can go and find them. He was a big star in WWF back in the day, but, you know, Wahoo being Wahoo, and he got blackballed. That's why they got Strongbow. Again, Wahoo was a big star for the Jets. You know what I mean? Like, a big New York star coming in. Not like Gronkowski. That's for sure. But
sure that's going to be.
By 65, he's a big deal in the Garden because he was a New York Jet. You know what I mean? And he was legitimate. And, you know, he got blackballed by McMahon's for doing Wahoo type things. And if you know what that is, you can go ahead and look that up.
Yeah.
But I like to see Brutus Beefcake. You can say what you want about Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan's a good friend. If you're down with the Hulkster, he will figure out a way to take care of you because he take care of Brutus Beefcake throughout his whole career. That's a good friend. After that, we have a 6-man tag team match. Jesse the Body Ventura, Ken Patera looking fucking huge as all fuck, and Blackjack Lanza, who defeated the High Flyers of Greg Gagne and Jim Brunzell with Ricky Martel, which was always weird because Trongard always called him Ricky Martel. This is probably the only time I've seen Lanza like in a full match. You know what I mean? I obviously know who Blackjack Lanza is, the Blackjacks with Mulligan, but this is probably one of the few times I've actually seen him in the full match. Really, really good. Ventura, being Ventura, who's limited in ring, but again, he's Jesse the Body Ventura, and he's a bigger than life character. Ken Patera, and if guys, have you only seen Ken Patera in the WWF? Oh man, you're missing out because Ken Patera, prior to throwing a boulder through a McDonald's, was enormous and had bleached blonde hair, and looked like he would legitimately murder people.
Yeah, totally.
And then we had Greg Gagne, you think Greg Gagne ever went to the gym?
Greg Gagne is the ultimate picture of my daddy runs the business. Like, dude.
Well, it's him and George Goulas.
Yikes.
Are probably the two big ones. But he was a good worker. He just had a really shitty physique. Like, he could work. Could have promo. You know what I mean? Could have promo. I think his look overall was shit. And maybe he's, genetically, no matter how much he worked out, he couldn't get, he couldn't have an impressive physique. And Brunzell, again, fantastic athlete, super high drop kick, I guess is what he was known for. High Flyers were a good tag team. But Greg didn't have a good look. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And I like Greg as a worker. Like, he can have good matches, but his look is, like, really, really awful. And I think we'll talk a lot about Greg over time and some of the stories he tells, because they're fantastic. I have a greater appreciation for Greg Gagne now than I did back in the day, but it's not like they gave him the belt, though. You know what I mean?
Hey, they gave him the TV belt.
And they gave him the world belt, though. He was always upper mid-card, but he wasn't main event, though.
Sure.
And then you have Rick Martel. And a lot of people may forget that Ricky Martel drew as AWA champion. Say what you want.
Sure.
But he drew. He drew crowds as AWA champion. Trust me, it wasn't Rick Martel's title run that killed the AWA. That's for sure. And I think we all have an appreciation for Rick Martel. I think I do. He's fantastic. I love Ricky Martel. And then Ventura. I mean, Ventura's Ventura. And then the match, the main event, what should have been the main event of the evening, but was not for reasons. Nick Bockwinkel defeated Hulk Hogan. I love this match, by the way. I don't like the finish, but the match itself is fantastic. It's probably
it's a good match.
Top 5 Hogan match of all time, probably. I think that's fair.
With that hot crowd, yeah.
Yeah, with that crowd was fucking... Hulk Hogan had the territory on fire. Hulkamania running wild in the AWA in 1983. And there's a couple of conflicting stories here, even from the Gagne side of it. The Hogan side of it is like they wanted to put the belt on Hogan Vern wanted his Japanese money and his T-shirt money because Hogan made his own T-shirts and sold them out of the trunk of his car and they didn't give a fuck.
Nice.
So Vern wanted that money. Hulk was like, no. But I think in reality, this is where you put the belt on Hulk. Hogan is not long for this world. He's in WWF by December. You know what I mean?
Right.
Probably one of the reasons. I wonder if Vern kind of knew that was coming, too. That maybe that's one of the reasons why he didn't put the belt on him. It's like, if I put the belt, because, not putting the belt on Hogan hurt the AWA. It didn't kill the AWA like a lot of people think. Well, would have killed the AWA if Hogan leaves with that fucking belt. So, maybe Vern being savvy enough to, see what the wind is going. You don't know. Hogan's spending a lot of time in Japan. Vince is over there doing stuff. You don't know. But yeah, doing this dusty finish is fucking bad news, though. I'd rather just done a clean fucking. If you're not gonna put the belt on Hogan, have him just lose by countout or DQ without the whole Hogan's gonna hold up the belt. And fucking Lord James Blears is one of the worst special guest referees of all time. Go back and watch this match. He sucks.
I'll tell you one other thing.
Bronco Lubitsch bad.
I'll tell you one other thing about the show as a general rule. The referee with the pre-match instructions to everybody, dude. Like it was a point where I was thinking to myself, is he trying to like Joe West this situation, like a baseball referee there, but just make him bigger than the match? Like, dude, like we get it, you're the ref, that's great, but just the amount of instructions, and you can see why Daniel like probably was saying to him, "I'm gonna kill you," like shut up.
Yeah, man, it was rough. I mean, the match overall probably top 5 for Hogan. Another great performance by Nick Bockwinkel. And we're going to talk a lot about Bockwinkel. And a lot of people out there, it's been bubbling for a little bit, that are saying that Bockwinkel is better than Flair. But we'll get into that a little bit deeper as we go through the program, through the project. And we'll see if that holds up or not. But Bockwinkel, another fantastic match. Good match with Hogan. The dusty finish at the end is bullshit. I'm surprised the crowd didn't fucking riot. It's probably why they had Vern go on last, to be completely honest, if you think about it. Because you can't leave the crowd like that when you leave, for the night.
Right.
This is 1983, not 1998, where you can do shit like that. So your main event, Vern Gagne, who is 54 years old, with Mad Dog Vachon, who is 49-ish, 50-ish,
yeah,
50, 53-ish. Regardless, 2 guys in your 50s taking on Sheik on Casey, who has to be like 100 at this time too, and Jerry Blackwell. And Blackwell was a draw. He's the guy that carried the AWA after Hogan left. But that's a whole other story. Now we see a lot of this nowadays, Matt. Guys in late 40s, early 50s, in your main events. Is that good? Is that a sustainable business model?
No.
Hell no.
No. No.
Like, Vern would do stuff like this. Now, Vern put himself in the main event. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He knew this Hogan bullshit finish was going to happen, so he wanted to send the crowd home happy. That doesn't excuse the fact that he retired as AWA champion.
Yeah.
So, in his retirement match, he won the championship. Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Again, these decisions right here didn't kill the AWA. Certainly didn't fucking help them at all. Right. And Vachon obviously super over. Vern's still over. Again, this should be probably 5th on the card here. Oh, Vern is back, blah, blah, blah. But if you want us to, I'll give him the benefit of doubt here that you do this finish with Bockwinkel Hogan and you want to send the crowd home happy, whatever. It's bullshit. Wouldn't be the last time that Vern comes out of retirement, by the way, either. So let's keep that in mind. So, Matt, what are your overall thoughts on this show? Do you like Ron Starr as an announcer?
I do. A lot of it has a very professional-sounding voice to it. It gives it a really quality of seriousness, competitiveness, fire. Even the lower card matches, the way they talked about it. But at the same token, you just have way too many. This is just riddled with why this company didn't do well. Vern not figuring out the simple basics of life of you got to pass the torch, dude. And just the epitome of what not to do in the business. It reminds me of every local indie show where they would bring in someone like Honky Tonk Man or the Mountie or
the Hammer.
Right. They bring them in and they have them job out to like the old timer. And you're like, what?
We're gonna take our top babyface. And he's going to get beat by the Honky Tonk Man in 3 minutes. But I think overall, I do like the show. It gives you, I think it gives you a good snapshot of what the AWA is all about when business is doing well. Because I think the majority of what we see that's on video is when they're not doing very well. But this gives you an opportunity to see, like, hey, it's a sold out crowd. It's fucking packed. The crowd is fucking nuts and bananas, and they're hot for everything. And, you know, I think overall it's a solid show. 83 for sure. It's no Super Clash 3, that's for sure.
You know, I love that show.
I know you're a big fan of that show. We'll talk about that in depth as well as we go along. So, Matt, you wanted to talk about empty arenas. Seems to be a fad all of a sudden. I wonder why. You can't talk about it on the show. The reason why, because they will throw us YouTube. As you guys have noticed in the last couple of weeks, we try to make these shows evergreen, but I think this is a big enough topic where we can talk about it. The latest Raws and SmackDowns take place in an empty arena. So, Matt, I know you have some really, really strong thoughts on this topic, so have at it.
Yeah, I mean, to give you an idea of how much the Jerry Lawler, Terry Funk empty arena match from, like, I think it was 86 or 85. Maybe
earlier than that, 82 maybe.
Maybe, yeah. And, you know, Lawler, my eye, Lawler's yellow. Like, we still to this day will say that shit to each other. It was unusual when you saw it. And I think the problem, what's going on is when Terry Funk came out, and kind of mockingly, like, you know, acknowledged the fans and talked to Lance Russell, he took into account that there were no fans there. Lawler walked out, and Funk even makes fun of him. The idiot thinks that he's walking out in his crown like he normally would, and Funk's just making fun of him. I was watching, I think it was SmackDown, or no, it was Raw, and they walk out, and you're like, ugh, and just no fans. And I'm trying to think what show it was, because when they walked out, they came out to music and did their whole poses. It felt very much like I was watching a video game. You know, when you watch that, like, the gameplay of them walking down a ring and they're pointing and they're doing their actions, and the fans are there, and the fans are all computer generated. Like, maybe they should just CGI some fans in. One of the things about wrestling that is unique about it is a completely, one of the first things I always say that, you know, if you don't have the fans engaged, you don't have anything. And if you're not going to engage fans physically in the building, because they've done things where they've done, like, you know, fights outside the arena or fights at a bar or street fight matches where they're literally in the street, but they acknowledge the camera, they acknowledge what's going on. To me, it felt very much like they were just kind of like pretending there were fans there while you're watching home. But no.
That's the whole problem. The whole problem was they had an opportunity to change the format of the show and make it feel unique, make it feel different.
Yeah.
And what they chose to do is to do what they were going to do anyway in front of no audience.
Yeah.
And it looks stupid.
Yeah. It is.
Why you're doing, who you posing to.
It comes off really cringy where you're like, oh, shit, that looks awful. Now,
it looks like a fucking rehearsal.
What I would, like I told you, I tweeted out at AEW, I'd rather see deep wrestler interviews. Or, you know, like, I always love the DVD aspect. I've always said I should do a DVD, like, commentary of my very first match, which is on YouTube, by the way.
It's on this channel.
Because there's so much funny stuff that happened behind the scenes. And for me, there's so many things like that. And it gives the fans a layer of the matches. Like, you see them nowadays where the wrestlers will go back and watch the matches, the kind of commentary. But to know, you know, oh, I broke my finger at this part here, or whatever happened. And these
Or just have other dudes, like, having Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston do commentary over Steamboat Savage.
Right. Yeah, that too. And you have so many things you can do, because especially for WWE, where they have so much content. They could do a thing and do, you know, our wrestlers talk about their favorite matches or matches. Like, if someone said, like, oh, what was the matches that, like, really got you into wrestling, made you want to be a wrestler? Barry Windham, Ric Flair, it was a main event match. It went, like, a whole entire show. And I remember, like, oh, I wanted Barry to win so bad. And that was one of the matches that got me in. Paul Orndorff, Hulk Hogan, Steel Cage in Toronto.
Amazing.
That got me into it. I still, to this day, Orndorff won. But anyways, you have a chance to use that asset of all that material to your advantage. I think you have to sit there and say, you know what? We know the show must go on. So with a wrestling show, I think you go the route of use your content you have. If I'm AEW, you've got one thing to think about. Do a reboot of the series, like start over and say, we're going to have the wrestlers talk about, like you said earlier, like have different wrestlers talk about matches and let the audience, because you got people at home, they're able to watch it at home. You know, they'll be around Wednesday nights, they'll be in. And every Wednesday night, make it like, you know, here's the biggest match of the night. We're going to talk about it. You can have the wrestlers submit their promos from home or whatever, not promo, but like their interviews as far as like what they thought of the show. And the fans, I still say people like shared experience.
There's two ways you can look at it. You can look at it as like, oh man, this shit sucks, or, you know, this is an opportunity.
Right.
Let's think outside the box here. If it doesn't work, then we tried it and we go back to business as normal.
Yeah.
Business as usual down the road. But you have an enormous opportunity to do something different. You have an opportunity here to make history. All right, guys. So that's it for this episode. We are officially out of time. So for Matt Riley, I'm Alex G. Have a good night.